Hey guys, welcome back to the day two of our startup bootcamp. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. And today we're going to be learning about market research and how to do market research. So, uh, as you know, I'm Surendra and I'm the founder of Techigen. So, I'm going to be instructor and going to teach you about how to do market research. And today in this session, we're going to be learning about what is market research and how to do SWOT analysis and what are the steps involved in the market research process. And then we'll be learning about what is competitive analysis, and then we'll be learning about what is ICP, ideal customer profile. So, okay, we'll be starting with what is market research. Yeah. So 80% of business fail in the first 18 months of their life. A tragic strategy of any would-be entrepreneur. And many of these businesses are started by people who are passionate and energetic, but they fail to appropriately validate the underlying business model. So actually, there are several steps that you can undertake to prevent this fate for your startup. So today we'll be learning about how to perform research and validation on your idea in a systematic and comprehensive manner. So building a startup that takes passengers to Mars may be a very interesting idea, but may not be necessarily on a basis or a very financially successful business. So many startups fail because they do not appropriately validate the idea. So here are actually 7 questions that you have to ask to yourself before starting any startup. Uh, so I'll go through the 7 questions right now. The first question here is skills. So do you have the skills that your chosen business will demand of you? So first and foremost, you should ask yourself, do I have the skills that my business demand of myself? So the next question is what specific mission of your business and what problem are you trying to solve and to whom are you solving? So that's the mission part. What is the mission statement? What is the vision statement of your startup? You have to clearly define before starting up. The third question you have to ask yourself here is, have you obtained validation from potential customers to prove that there are what do you call it, a product for your a market for your product or service you're offering? So that's the third question, validation. So that is, have you obtained a validation from your potential customers to prove that there's a market for your product or service you're offering right now? And the fourth question here is resources. So what initial resources and what initial investment do you need before you start a company? Do you have the required funds or not? Or you're going to be raising your funds? So you have to be clear with the resources. And the fifth question is, will the business will be able to earn profit in a reasonable time, or you will be run out of capital? You have to know and clearly a roadmap plan. And the sixth question here is, what type of competition will you face, not only now, even in the future? So that is the sixth question. That's a competition. And the seventh one, we have pivot. So in pivot, will you be able to pivot as to adapt to new circumstances and information about your business? So that is the 7 questions you have to ask before starting up. I'll sum up it. So the first question here is skills. So do you have the skills? The second question is mission. So what is a mission statement? What is a vision statement? And the third one here is validation. So have you obtained validation from the potential customers? Did you prove that there is a market for your offering? And the fourth one is resources. Do you have the required funds, or are you going to do bootstrapping? Are you going to approach VCs for funding? You have to be clear with it. And the fifth question is, will the business be able to earn a profit in a reasonable time? And the sixth question is, what's the competition? What's going to be facing now and in the future? And the seventh one is, will you be able to pivot to adapt to new circumstances and the information about your business? So that's the 7 questions you have to ask yourself before uh, starting a company. So next we'll be moving on to what is market research. So now we've asked the 7 questions. So now, before you set up a new business, it is actually essential to consider the demands the business will place on your lifestyle, if those comfort with the type of life you want to build for yourself in a long-term strategy. So factors you might want to take into control includes your own wealth goals, family commitments, hobbies, lifestyle choices, your age, and your stress tolerance. For example, if you're gonna create a high growth, high scalable Silicon Valley startup, entrepreneurs taking this route tend to work around the clock for a couple of years before exiting. So they exit by either becoming an acquisition target for a larger business or going public or going IPO on the stock market. So This strategy offers the highest financial risk and probably the greatest prestige among entrepreneurs. And in the startup plan, looking at timings is also part of market research phase. So this phase should happen almost immediately after the founder thinks of an idea. So market research is the second step you have to do in your startup process. The first process, ideation, we discussed yesterday. So today we'll be learning about market research. So in my opinion, it's actually pointless to move forward with an idea that might not have a market potential. So entrepreneurs have this notion that if they make something, people will use it. uh, this will never be the case. You need to make sure something that the market really wants and market does not already have. If you do this, you're going to launch the right time, you will have the huge leap over the competition. So that is why market research is so critical in your startup process. And many entrepreneurs actually avoid market research because they don't want to hear any bad news about the idea or see that someone is already doing it. But newsflash, just because you don't look at the competition doesn't mean it isn't there. It's always there, but it's okay. So just having a strong gut feeling isn't very good reason to launch a product in the market without validating its demand, developing a marketing strategy without knowing target audience, or just starting a startup when you don't even know who your competitors are. So accurate and thorough information is a prerequisite of any business venture because it helps the entrepreneur to determine the feasibility of his business before committing much to it. So market research is what going to provide you with the relevant data to help you to solve the challenges you face in the entire business venture. So what is market research? In the more academic term, market research is actually a systematic process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting data about the market, which are going to be involving into to better understand the target group and to make more informed decisions about the company and the customers. So the result of market research is used to uh, check whether to validate or invalidate hypotheses about the potential customers, their characteristics, their demographics, their habits, the competition, and the industry as a whole. So when you are doing market research, try to answer the question of what is the nature of the industry in which your startup will exist. So here an industry description may be described as a uh, trends, life cycle, growth direction. So the whole process of market analysis is a solid description of industry will guide a startup owner. That is you as a founder. So then the focus can be shifted into the target market. So that is about finding out exactly who your product or service is designed for, and you need to fully understand the nature of your customers and where they will come from. So, what prevents founders from entering an industry is what allows the existing businesses to retain their market share. So, you need to know your competition to continue analyzing market conditions. So, prepare a main list of competitors in your segment, outline their strengths and weaknesses. So, once you've identified those, you'll be able to use the information to map the advantages and market the position of your startup. So, as an additional step, it will also be useful to determine who your direct and indirect competitors are. So there's a difference between direct competitors and indirect competitors. So direct competitors belong to the same price category, which have same target audience, same product promotion, and same distribution channels. On the other hand, the in the indirect competitors, the key audience is similar, but the product is different. That is called indirect competitors. So the main components have been identified. Continue with the defining the key features of a product. Try to answer the question of what makes them unique and why potential customers would want your product. So what is the hook you're going to provide? So what is the trigger you're going to be providing? So in this era of cutthroat competition, having data to rely on is essential. So there's a three. If you see on the slide, there's three uh, necessary of market research. So the first one is gain more insight about the customers and competitors. The second one here is reduce the risk of business failure, and third one is forecasting future trends. So here's the advantages of market research. So market research actually helps a business to discover customers, buying trends, habits, decision making processes. It also provides them with actually a huge data of the how the existing players in the market are performing. So when you do perform market research, you can get answers to the question like, who my customer actually is. That we'll be learning in the last part in this session. That is what is the high ICP, ideal customer profile, and what factors affect his buying decision. So what variables are into play, and how well are the company's products selling in the market, and how the competitors are doing in the market. So what changes are currently happening in the marketplace. So that these questions you can get in answers. And even though the definition of market research remain the same, it can be classified based on the type of goals, type of information required. So here the types of market research based on the type of information provided, based on the research goals. So here are three types of market research. So the first one is exploratory, descriptive, and casual. So these are three types of market research based on research goals. So we'll talk about the first one, that is exploratory market research. So in exploratory market research, so this process explores the nature of the problem. So it is not intended to provide a final and conclusive solution to a problem, but just to explore the research questions. So it usually includes open-ended questions, and it is used for more growth options, companies' present and prospective issues, and etc. That will be more upon the exploratory research, that is only exploring the nature of the problem. And on the second hand, we have descriptive research. So in the descriptive research, it is actually used to describe the situation, and it's actually conclusive in nature. So descriptive research are also called as statistical research, which is used to quantify data in situation like market potential, uh, demographic of the target market, etc. And on the third one, we have casual research. So casual research is also structured and conclusive research used to explain the cause and effect relationship between the variables in the market. So an example of casual research would be a research to find out if the new package design increases the sales of toy or not. So that is casual research. So here's the three types of market research based on the types of research. And the next one will be types of research based on the information use. So there are two types of research based on the information required. The first one is qualitative and quantitative. So I know you guys are bad at mathematics. Actually, I'm bad at mathematics and statistics. It is okay. You can do it. You cannot do it. It's totally fine. But you have to know these things. Uh, the qualitative thing is actually intended for exploratory research, that is to explore and gain in-depth knowledge about how the things work and how to solve a problem. And the data collected in the qualitative part of the market research is usually unstructured or semi-structured, which is further used to set the hypothesis for further quantitative research. And on the other hand, we have quantitative research. So actually, quantitative research is a statistical research where it quantifies the data into variables and can be compared and evaluated. So that is all about the types of market research. Actually, this is not necessary for you to carry on your research, but knowing them is good as a beginner. And the next will be going on to how to do market research. So this is the main part of how to do market research. On the last two slides, we learned about what is market research types based on information used and types of market research. So this is just the basics. You need not go in depth in these two slides. It's just a basic thing. And next, now we'll be moving on to the how to do market research. So it's actually a 6-step process. So we'll first move on to the first one. So that is defining the research. So market research, especially primary market research, is actually a very long process, but it is an uphill struggle. If planned well, it can result in a productive data which could give good directions to the company's business strategies. So you should always set a goal for your market research. What answers do you seek from the people? Is it just to explore the trends, or just explore the buying habits, the needs, the want, or do you want the concrete quantitative answers which describe the cause and effect relationship among some variables in the market? So you have to clearly define what is the reason behind your research, and identify the problem and develop a hypothesis to be validated by the market research. So that is the first step. You have to define the research. So what is the goal you're going to be achieving by this research? And the second one, we have identify the sample group. So here sample group, once you've identified what is the goal, look for sample group who is most likely to be affected by it. So who is most likely to give answers you need to validate your hypothesis, that is your target customers. So identify the right sample group is actually a very crucial step of market research process, as a wrong sample set will make you research data are useless. So identify the correct sample group. Sample group is nothing but your target customers. So the third type we have is identify the most suitable research type and method. So actually here, uh, first I'll be telling about primary market research, then we'll go on to secondary market research. So according to the types of data collection, the market research can be distinguished based on, there are many types. I'll be telling you one by one. The first type is survey. So in survey, is actually a method of gathering information through questioning the target audience. And surveys are tremendously versatile and most commonly used. And thanks to the range of questions and format options. If you're a techie guy, you can there's a lot of available tools available in the Google, like Survey Monkey, Type Form, Google Form. If you're not that much into tech, you can use Google Forms to take the survey. And the second one here is interview. So this type of market research is more personal because it helps to drive deep into the deeply and allow you to have extensive communication and clarification with your target customers directly. And the third one here is focus groups. So focus groups usually involves a group of people in a room discussing about a given topic. There is also an organizer, that is you, who controls discussion according to checklist questions which you have already prepared. And the third one is social media listening. Sorry, fourth one is social media listening. And this method is especially useful because an immense amount of information is available on social media, so you can be sure that such information reflects exactly what a person cares about, so since it's so unfiltered and spontaneous. And the fifth one here is observation. uh, this research method has a great reputation because it's about observing representatives or target market in the natural environment. And now we'll move on to the secondary market research. So as of now, we've learned about what is primary market research, that is taking a survey, having an interview, talking to a focus group, talking to seeing your social media and observation. So these are called primary market research. We'll move on to secondary market research. So secondary market research is based on the information that has previously been gathered by either inside or outside the company. So there's a lot of market research company. You can tie up with them to learn more about the industry. And before immersing yourself in conducting primary market research for your startup, it's always good to check whether there's an organization who can cooperate with you or sign an MOU with you to help you out with the market research process. And we'll go to the steps here. So the first step here is industry media. In the secondary market research, there are specialist media for more industries that concentrate on relevant news development, like popular websites, popular Reddit threads, popular blogs, online forums. Theme can vary widely from identifying industry size and product types to the existing issues. And the second one here is commercial market data. So numerous companies whose focus is on commercial market research provide syndicated analysis. So it usually covers topics that may be in interest to a variety of different organization. And the fifth one here is search engine result, that is SEO. So perhaps this sounds very simple, but it is always wise to perform an internet or Google search for any source of secondary data relevant to your project. So search engine results can be very useful since you can compare what's available. There's a lot of advantages to using data from secondary sources with reducing expenses and have significant pros from primary costs. So the next step in the market research is conducting research. So as of now, we've defined the research process. That is, we've defined what is the goal of the market research. Then we've identified the sample group. So whom are you going to deploy the research into? And then we've identified the most suitable research type. Now we're going to be preparing the research question. That is the fourth step of the market research. That is, we're going to prepare the interview questions. So if the primary market research is selected, the next step is to prepare a questionnaire. So having a standardized questionnaire makes it easier to collect data that can be analyzed and compared. So actually, we tested a lot of approaches and I come up with a solid set of questions you need to ask for market analysis. So the received answers will be a fundamental to creating a business plan and further discussions. So actually, we have 7 questions right now. Actually, I don't have it in a slide, but I'll tell you. You quickly write it down. So uh, the first question you have to ask is, how big is my potential market and markets? So here there's a very fundamental concept called TAM and TSM. So the first question I told you is how big is my potential market? So under that, there's a two concept called TAM and TSM. So TAM is called total available market, and on the other hand, we have TSM. TSM stands for total serviceable market. So I'll tell you what the difference between is in the example of Techizon. So Techizon actually works in the education sector. So for education sector, the TAM, that is total available market, is 8 billion. So the whole educational industry is called the total available market, that is 8 billion. On the other hand, we have total serviceable market. So in that 8 billion industry, how much market share is Techizon? That is called total serviceable market. So you have to know the difference between the TAM and TSM, and it's the most frequent questions for all investors. This is the first question the investors will ask you if you're going to pitch them. So know what is your TAM and TSM. And the second question is, can this market potentially grow? You have to know you have to forecast the future, whether your market is going to potentially grow or not, or decline or grow or not. You have to know it before itself. And the third question is, what is the nature of the product or service similar to mine? And the fourth one is, who are my main competitors? And the fifth one is, what is the market share of each of my competitors? Market share here defines the total serviceable market. And the uh, sixth one here is there a niche that can I fill? So what is a niche I'm going to operate on? And the seventh one is, what is my USP? That is unique competitive advantage, and what will make me number one in the market? So these are the seven questions you have to ask in your market research. So I'll tell it again. The first question is, how big is my potential market or markets? So how big is my market? That is, what is my TAM and what is my TSM? You have to identify that first initially. And the second question is, can this market potentially grow? Will it grow or will it decline? You have to forecast it before itself. And the third question is, what is the nature of the product or service similar to mine? And the fourth one is, who are my main competitors? You have to know who is a competitor, what is the strength and weaknesses. And the fifth question is, what is the market share of each of my customers? That is, what is the TSM of each of my customers? Sorry, each of my competitors. So the sixth one here is there any niche I can fill? What is a niche? What is the niche of my company? And the seventh one is, what is my USP and what will make me number one in the market? So here are the seven questions that you have to ask yourself, ask the market in the market research phase. So that's the fourth step process. And on the fifth step, we have conducting research. So this is probably the most time consuming step in the primary market research. It involves collecting the data. So on the last 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, we have defined the research, we've identified the sample group, we've identified the most suitable research method, we have prepared the interview questions. So now it's actually time to brainstorm all these four things and put it in the paper. So you have to involve collecting data by through all the methods like conducting face-to-face interviews, online surveys, Reddit threads, Amazon reviews. So you have to conduct research in this phase. And on the next phase, that is the last phase, we have summarize and analyze. So once the data is collected, the next step includes summarizing it. You have to summarize what you have learned in the market research process, whether the idea is validated or idea is invalidated. So uh, often such data is also arranged in a presentable manner, because in case your startup is fail, in case, it will be a great learning for you to carry it on with the next startup you're going to do it. So that is the time steps in the market research process. I'll tell it again. So the first one here is defining the research. So you have to have a goal of your market research process. That is the first step. And on the second step, we have identify the sample group. You have to know whom you're going to do the research with. So once the problem is identified, you have to know who are you going to research with. And on third one, we have identify the most suitable research type and method, whether it can be a Google Form survey. When I say about surveys, there's a lot of tools available. Survey Monkey, type of form, Google Form, Microsoft Forms. You can use a lot of forms. But and the second is surveys. You can use interviews. Uh, you can go for what you call the focus groups, and have social media listenings. You can use Google Trends. You can use Google Keyword Planner. You can use Amazon reviews. And then will be the next step is here is prepare the interview questions. So the 7 questions are repeated again. The first question is how big is my potential market? That is what is my TSM and what is my TAM. Second question is will my market grow or will my market decline? Third question is what is the nature of the product or service similar to mine? And the fourth question is who are my main competitors? And the fifth one is what is the market share of each of my competitors? And the sixth one is what is the niche I'm going to operate on? And the seventh one, last one is what is my USP and what will make me the number one in the market or get a monopoly. So that is the seventh question. And the next one is conducting research. And the last one is summarize and research the findings, analyze the findings. So that is the 6-step process of doing a market research. So yeah, we'll move on to the next part of our session, that is how to do SWOT analysis. When I talk about SWOT analysis, just give me a minute. I'll share a document file in the WhatsApp group. Just give me a second. I'll share the document right now. Yeah, actually, I've sent you a document on the WhatsApp startup group. So while I'm telling you the quadrants, what is strength, what is weakness, what is opportunity, you can look into this document. So yeah, we'll start with this SWOT analysis. What is SWOT analysis? Yeah, actually, SWOT analysis is a methodology for evaluating your businesses and figuring out how you can get yourself in a position to reach your goals. So, SWOT is an acronym that stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. It is just a 2 by 2 matrix of 4 quadrants. So, each quadrant is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So, the first quadrant we are going to look at is strength. So what you have to fill in this quadrant is uh, actually an entrepreneur's strength. Yeah, actually, wait. Yeah, I've sent you the link. Guys, can you give me a quick review that did the file come to your WhatsApp group?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll move on to the strength part. So as the entrepreneur's strength and weakness are important to know when planning and executing on goals. So strength are capabilities or qualities that give you a competitive edge. So this can include your 24/7 customer service line or your highly trained sales force, productive and efficient process that your company is undertaking. So your strength are what should power your business strategy. For example, if your business provide itself on being attentive to customers, then include this differentiator as a key messaging in all your marketing materials. So if your business has better uh, timelines than anyone else, share exactly how much time you can save your customers as compared to anyone in the industry. So once you clearly know your strength, see how you can create a repeatable and scalable process that enables you to offer those strengths to each and every customer on a consistent basis. So when we talk about the distribution channel here, there is a law in marketing called the rule of seven. So that means when you are conveying a message to your customers, it should be consistent. And only if your customer hear your message 7 or more times, they will do a make or break decision. So you should not deliver a message once or twice. You have to deliver a message minimum 7 times. That is called the rule of seven. So whatever it be, whatever it can be your USP, it can be your mission, you have to convey your customers 7 times. So that is a strength. And we'll move on to the next quadrant, that is weakness. So it is vital to know which areas or business require help and why. If you know where your weaknesses are, you can take strides to turn them into strength. You have to turn your weakness into strength because the enemy will attack in your weakness. So if you are obvious to your weakness, they can affect your business performance and stop you from reaching your goals. So weakness can include a lack of capital or lack of cash flow, a lack of education, a lack of skills. So, for example, do most of customers tell you that they had a hard time making a purchase on your website. Perhaps user experience is an issue and need to be addressed immediately. On other point to consider is where you lack traction as compared to your competitors in the market. For example, do other business have thriving social media presence and you don't? So work with a mentor and or a business consult, or take the additional courses and workshops in your order to improve your weakness. So you should not leave your weakness as it is. You have to work on taking that weakness and moving it as your advantage. And moving on to the next quadrant is opportunities. So while the first two elements of SWOT analysis involve looking inward, the second two are about focusing on external aspects. That is, the strength and weakness are the internal part, and the opportunities is the internal part. So opportunities involve area where the business can grow. For example, this may include a new target market segment, new product line extension. So Forbes magazine noted that it is actually vital to understand economic trends, market fluctuations, uh, whether your market is elastic or inelastic, and changes in customer behavior when looking for potential market opportunities for growth. For example, if you're looking to add more product to your existing product line, conduct a customer survey before diving it into whether you have to do that decision or not. So that is the opportunities quadrant all about. Next, we'll move on to the last quadrant, that is threats. So a potential threat to your business is not anything that can affect it negatively, such as a new and powerful competitor, or changes in the economy like a recession or demonetization or legal issue with a customer. So outline the external aspect that may slow down your success so that you can determine what steps you can take to mitigate them. So if your business sources raw material from our overseas and economic, and if you're a business that imports raw material from an overseas customer, and an economic issue or trade relation affect your access to those material, so this will make it difficult for you to manufacture and sell the product. So have a backup plan in place, such as a local sourcing for raw materials that you can use it as a main supplier. So managing threats and mitigating risk is about learning what you are going to able to control within the external forces that affect your business, and that is threats all about. So SWOT analysis is so simple. It is just a 2 by 2 matrix of strength, weakness, and opportunity in threats. Yet it is so important and less valued. But I want you all to take this into as an important process in your market research. So that is the SWOT analysis all about. And you guys can fill in the document which I've sent you in the WhatsApp group. Once you've started your startup and finish all the process which I told you before, you can carry on the SWOT analysis. Or if you want to try it out, take an already existing business model, or take, for example, take Uber, for example, take Zomato, and write their SWOT analysis. So if you are someone from Zomato or Uber, so what you are going to do in SWOT analysis, you can just try it out. It will be a lot of help when you are going to do in the real time world. So the next year is, what is competitive analysis? So it's actually a very interesting and important business strategy. So yeah, we'll move on to the next session. Is my screen visible? Just give me a thumbs up if my screen is visible in the chat box. Is the slide clear? Yeah, okay, sure. So next we'll move on to competitive analysis. So competitive analysis is a statement of the business strategy and how it actually relates to the competition. So the purpose of the competitive analysis is to determine the strength and weakness of the competitors within your market. So strategies that will provide you with a distinct advantage, the barriers that can develop in order to prevent the competition from entering your market, and any weakness that can be exploited within the product development cycle, PDC. So the first step in the competitive analysis is to identify the current and potential competition. So as mentioned in the market strategies before, there are essentially two ways to identify the competitors. So the first one is to look at the market from a consumer point of view and group all your customers by degree to which they affect the content for the buyer's dollar. So on the second method is group the competitors along the various competitive strategies. So understand what motivates them. So what more triggers them to buy their product. So once you have grouped your competitors, you can start to analyze their strategies and identify the areas where they are more vulnerable. So this can be done through a examination of competitors' weakness and strength. So the SWOT analysis, which we've talked about before, you can also do it to your competitors to identify their strengths, their weaknesses. So a competitor's strength and weakness are usually based on the presence and absence of key assets and key skills needed to compete in the market. So to determine what constitutes a key asset or key skill within an industry, so David Aker is actually a professor in his book called The Developing Business Strategies. He's telling us to concentrate our efforts on four areas. So first one is you have to find the reason behind uh, successful and unsuccessful firms. You have to know why that company is successful. You have to know why a company is unsuccessful. You have to know the case study behind those companies. And the second one is prime customer motivators. So what triggers a customers to buy your product, or what triggers a customers to buy the competitor's product? So what is the hook they are using? What is the emotional trigger that they are using? You have to know that. And the third one is major component cost. So what is your fixed cost? What is the variable cost? You have to know it. And the fourth one is barriers of entry. So there's a term called Michael Porter's four rules. Uh, Michael Porter's four rules. So according to theory, the performance of company within a market is actually directly related to the position of key assets and skills. So I repeat it again: the performance of a company within a market is directly related to the position of key assets and key skills. So therefore, an analysis of strong performers should reveal the causes behind such a successful track record. So this analysis, in conjunction with an examination of unsuccessful companies and the reason behind their failures, should provide a good idea of what key assets and skill are needed to successful within the your industry and market segment. So through your competitive analysis, you will also have a marketing strategy that will generate an asset or a skill competitors do not have. So which will provide you with a distinct and enduring competitive advantage. Since a competitive advantage are developed from key assets and key skills, you should sit down and put together as a competitive strength grid. So competitive strength grid, that is called CSG. So this is a scale that lists all the major competitors based upon their assets and skill, and how your company fits on this scale. So to put together this competitive strength gauge called CSG, list all the key assets and list all the key skills down on the left margin on the piece of paper. So take a piece of paper and on the left side write down all the key assets and the key skills, skills, and on the right side, on the right top corner, on the column head, write weakness and strength. So in each asset and each skills category, place all the competitors that have weakness in the particular category under the weakness column, and those who have strength in a specific category, write it in the strength column. So after you finish, we'll be able to determine where you stand in relation to other firms competing in your industry. So once you've actually established key assets and key skills necessary to succeed in this business, you have to define distinctive competitive advantage. So I'll tell it again: what is competitive strength grid? It is CSG. I'll repeat it again. So take a piece of paper, and on the left side, left margin of the piece of paper, write the key skills and key assets you have. And on the top corner, top column, write weakness and strength. So in each asset and each skill, place all the competitors that have weakness in that particular category, and all those have strength in this particular category. So after you finish, you will be able to determine where you stand in relation to competitors in the market. So that is the CSG all about. So I'll be sharing the CSG template soon in the WhatsApp group. Once the session is over, I'll be sharing that document to your WhatsApp group. So yeah, once you've established the key assets and skill necessary to succeed in the business and have defined your distinctive competitive advantage, you need to communicate them in a strategic form that will attract market share as I defined it. So market competitive strategy usually fall into these five areas, that is distribution, product, pricing, promotion, and advertising. So whatever company you compete with, you have to compete only in these five areas. That is, you have to compete with the customers in distribution, product, pricing, advertising, and promotion. So yeah. Many of the factors leading to formation of strategy should already have been highlighted. We've talked about in the previous section. So uh, strategies primarily revolve around establishing the point of entry in the product lifecycle as PLC. So we'll talk about PLC in another session. So as we've already discussed, this involved identifying elements that will set your product or service apart from a competitors or strategic group. You need to identify or you have to establish this competitive advantage clearly so that the consumer, the end user understand how you will accomplish a goal and how your strategy work or not, and the reason behind they should buy a product. That is all about this competitive strategy. And we'll move on to the next thing, that is defining your customer persona. So this is the most important and basic thing. You have to do it in your startup process. If you don't do it, you will crash and burn. So let's start with the difference between customer segment and customer persona. So first, segmentation. So customer segmentation allows a brand to understand different set of a different set or different groups of customers. So this might tell us why, as where a particular group lives, where a particular group's age range, maybe even their typical buying behavior. So a customer persona, on the other hand, allows brand to understand their homogeneous groups and try to recognize traits within them. For example, segmentation is college students. So college students as a whole is a segmentation, and on the other hand, customer personas engineering students. So in that college students, engineering students are a homogeneous group, that is customer persona. So in order to create a representative sample of an audience, personas are based on the analysis and research of real customers. So this helps to build a much more detailed picture, at least in hypothetical customer picture. So including their far more emotive information, such as their personal motivations and what they value in a brand they see, and what kind of communication they prefer. Well, it is content marketing, is it email marketing? So brands are often able to take this insight and use it to deliver a much more relevant and less one-dimensional experience. So all brands tend to give a three-dimensional experience. So just give me a second. I'll be sharing you a link on HubSpot customer persona. So HubSpot customer persona is actually an online tool. So in that online tool, you can create your own persona generator. So yeah, I've shared it in the chat box. You can just take a look in it. So in that, actually, HubSpot have done it for small business owners, actually free only. When you start a company, use this persona to develop ideal customer profile. It's called ICP. So customer persona has many names like buyer persona, customer persona, ICP, but the motive is the same. So after this session, you can just take a look on that link which I've given before, and even you can take a look on HubSpot's blog. So I'm not promoting HubSpot, but it's actually I've learned all my marketing in HubSpot only. There's a uh, product called HubSpot Academy where you can learn all the marketing for free, and the HubSpot blogs are a gold mine of marketing insights and ideas. So just give a look on HubSpot. So yeah, moving back to the topic. So yeah, buyer personas are a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customers based on the data and research you've done in the market research stage. So I'll repeat it again. Buyer persona or customer persona is actually a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customers based on the research and data which you've done in the market research. So this help you to focus your time on qualified prospects and guide your product development team to suit the need of your target customers and align all the work in your organization, from the marketing, from the sales to the service. So as the result, you'll be able to attract high value visitors, high value leads and customers to your business who are more likely to retain over time. So when I tell they are more likely to retain, customer retention is more important than customer acquisition. So that's a more important thing. Customer retention is more feasible than customer acquisition. So specifically, having a deep understanding of your buyer persona. Buyer persona means your whole customers as a single person. That is, you're having a resume when you go for a company. When you go for an interview, you have a resume. So as an entrepreneur, you should have a resume for your customers. So who are they? Where do they live? So you have to have a resume. So, as at a more basic level, developing persona allows you to create the content and messaging that appeals you to your target audience. It also enables you to target and personalize your marketing for different segments of your audience. So, when I say personalize your marketing, so in this more busy and noisy world, personalization is the only thing which is gonna set you apart from the crowd. So marketing and business is just a psychology game. So marketing and business is just a psychology game. So in that psychology game, personalization is only gonna help you to differentiate yourself from the crowd. So don't forget these two things, psychology and personalization. So these two things will take you to higher heights. For example, if you are sending in mails to everyone in database, in case, for example, you're buying a database from a company and sending in emails to everyone in database, so you can segment by buyer persona. So instead of sending it to everyone, you can segment that list into buyer persona, and you have to tailor your message to uh, what the pain and the problem faced by those persona. So when you have a buyer persona in your hand, you will know what pain are they facing, what problems are they facing, so you can tailor your content to solve that problem. So if you don't have a customer persona, you will not know what problems are they facing, and obviously you will send something which they doesn't want. You'll drop it in spam. So the hard truth is that not every person will be a potential customers. So that is what a customer persona are going to solve. So not don't try to solve it to everybody. You'll obviously fail. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. So don't try to market your product to everyone. So not every person in the world is a customer, and not every client is a client. So there are customers on whom companies use more resource uh, than receive revenues. That is why it is crucial to focus on most profitable target market. So as mentioned, you should have your research should have a clear outline picture of your potential clients. So look at things like your customer profile should have their customers age, customers location. For example, take the age customer persona of Techisian. So our age, we are targeting the age group of 18 to 25. That is our target group, and we will not target anyone who's apart from 18 to 25 age. We will not target someone from 16. We will not target from 40. Only 18 to 25 will target. And the location, income, their gender, their occupation, their unmarried or married, family status. So once you've optimized your list, explore the personalities, their geographical, their psychological, interest, needs, uh, demographics. So after you've done all these things, your profile for your typical customers can be created. So as your startup progresses, you will add more details to your customer persona. So initially, these things are enough. So initially, you can add only age, location, gender, occupation, family status. These tips are enough when you start. So as you start a progress, you can the customers base may grow or it may change when you pivot. So revisit your customer persona data regularly to ensure that the business stays up to date and focus on fulfilling the needs and want of your actual client base. So the only need of a customer of an ICP, that is ideal customer profile, is to tailor the market, personalize the market to the target audience instead of everyone in the market. So it is necessary to do a thorough research before diving into a new market. So you'll need time, you'll need money to analyze the market for your startup. So it is therefore important to be sure that collected data can be further applied in your project. So it may be a current startup, it may be a future startup, it can be anything, but collecting and documenting is more important in the long run. So market research for startups should always be truly be only on trustworthy and official data. So that trustworthy and official data reflects the real world situation and not somebody's imagination. So make sure the data you collect is trustworthy. So any investor will no doubtly ask you about the sources of the collected data. He'll ask you the proof, where did you collect it. So either way, it's about your business and your plans. So on the way towards creating a big startup, there might be unexpected twists and unexpected turns. So however, a good analysis will help you to predict and mitigate potential issues that may prevent you from moving on to the next level. So that is all about, yeah, that is all about our session. And the difference between the dreamer and a business owner is a well laid plan. Though the difference between a dreamer and a business owner is a well laid plan. So do not engage in startup before doing market research, before doing competitive analysis, before doing SWOT analysis, before doing your what do you call ICP. You have to do all this research. So initially, when I took the data and saw 90% of startups fail. So when I took the reason behind their failure, the first reason was lack of market research. So I don't want you guys to fall in that trap. So do your market research well. So successful startup entrepreneurs learn the target markets, they validate their business idea, and they're self-aware of their shortcomings so that they match their skills and match their lifestyle desires with the needs of the business they launch. So above all, they understand that only those business survive can bring in a sustainable revenue in excess of their cost before the investment capital runs out. So that is the difference between a successful entrepreneur and a common person. So you have to put the plan in place. So that is the session all about. We'll run a quick summary on what we've learned so far. So yeah, the first we've learned about the 7 questions that you have to ask before starting your startup. So don't jump into blindly. You have to answer the 7 questions. Only if you have a tick mark on all the 7 questions, proceed to the next process. Next process is called market research. So yesterday we've learned about ideations, like how to find a startup idea. So after you find an idea, you have to answer the 7 questions. So the first question is, do you have the skills that your chosen business will demand of? So do you have the right skills? And the second question here is mission. What is the mission and vision statement of your business? And the third one is, have you obtained validation from potential customers? That's the third question all about. And the fourth one is, what is the initial investment do you need? Are you gonna do bootstrapping, or are you gonna raise funds from VCs? You have to have a clear thing. Fifth question is resources. Will the business able to earn profits? And the sixth question is, what is the competition you will face? And the seventh one is, will you be able to pivot and adapt to a new business model? So these are the 7 questions you have to answer before jumping into startup world. So, and on the next, we've learned about what is market research and what the importance between market research. Market research is a simple term, but this term lies a bridge between successful and unsuccessful people. So don't ignore this. It can be time consuming, but it is not boring. Market research is never boring. It is like a crime investigation. So don't miss it out. And we've learned about the advantages, that is, can gain more insights about the customers and competitors. It can reduce the risk of business strategy failure. It can forecast future trends. So, and on the other hand, we learned about types of market research. Actually, these two slides: exploratory, descriptive, casual, and qualitative and quantitative. You just need the definition is enough, but don't dive into deeply into these definitions. This definition is enough. And next, we've learned about how to do a market research process. So it is a 6-step process of market research. And the first one is defining your research. You have to define the goals of your market research, and then you have to identify to which group you're going to do your research process. And the third one, you have to identify the most suitable research type method. So in that research type method, you can take a survey, you can take an interview, you can be in a focus group, you can do a social media listening. While coming to social media, there's you can go with Google Trends, or you can go with Google Keyword Planner, or you can go with Reddit threads, you can go with Twitter threads, or you can go with Amazon reviews. So Amazon reviews are so underrated. So in the product, when you open a product, there will be a review section. So that is where it is that comment section is so unfiltered and spontaneous that is a gold mine for your startup ideas. And then you can check internal data, government websites, industry media, or go for commercial market data. So that is the steps all about. And then we have to prepare the research questions. That is the fourth step is preparing the research questions. So I'll tell you the 7 questions if you guys have missed it out. So the first question here is, how big is my potential market or market? So what is my TAM and what is my TSM? So I'll tell you again, TAM stands for total available market, and on the other hand, we have TSM stands for total serviceable market. By taking tech as an example, so Techizzen operates on educational technology, so that is EdTech. So total available market of EdTech is $8 billion. That is the total market of educational technology is 8 billion. On the other hand, we have total serviceable market, that is TSM. So in that $8 billion market, what fraction, what proposition of that market does Techizzen serves or Techizzen is going to attack? That is called TSM. So for example, we are going to attack $1 million of that 8 billion. So that $8 billion is TAM, that is total available market, and that 1 million that Techizzen is going to concentrate and put all our efforts is called total serviceable market. That's TSM. So know the difference between TAM and TSM. And a second question we have is, can my market grow potentially, or can it be grow or decline potentially? That is, you have to know before. And who are the main competitors? You have to know these questions. And the last two steps is conduct research and summarize and analyze. So that is the steps in the market research process. And then we've learned about SWOT analysis. So it is so simple, but simple and underrated, but no one actually skips this process, but it's so important. The SWOT analysis you can do for yourself and your competitors. So when you do for yourself, uh, take the weakness part of your take a weakness and turn it to a strength, and for the competitors, attack on their weaknesses. That is the SWOT analysis all about. And next we've learned about what is competitive analysis. We've learned a couple of things over there, and we've learned about how to concentrate your marketing efforts on the four areas in the book given by developing the business strategies book. So know the reason behind successful and failed companies. Read the case studies behind why the company is successful, or read the case study behind why the company is failed. So, and second, know the prime customer motivators. So what triggers or what hooks them to buy a product or a company's product, and know the major component cost. That is, what is the fixed cost, what is the variable cost. The difference between fixed and variable cost is, fixed cost means if you are staying in a office rented, you'll have a cost. That is, if they're putting $10,000 as the monthly rent cost, you'll know that cost is fixed. But on the other hand, we have variable cost. So the marketing cost, we don't know how much is going to spend in the coming days or weeks. So that is variable. So that's the difference between fixed and variable cost. So we've learned about these things, and we've learned about uh, how to competitive strategies fall into these 5 areas. So when you compete with and competitors, you have to compete in these 5 areas. So you have to compete your distribution channel with their distribution channel. You have to compete your product with their product, with your pricing to their pricing, how you are doing promotion and how they are doing promotion, how you are advertising and how they are advertising. You have to uh, 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 you have to strategize your process into in five parts, and that is it's all about. And the next we've talked about defining customer persona, and that is the ideal customer persona, and we've learned about why it is necessary, and that is the end of the session. And if you have, guys, you have any questions, you can just drop it in the chat box. We'll have